You're listening to the Loyalty Minute, the show that helps you build better customer loyalty and more valuable user engagement. With your host, Rob Gallo.
Welcome, loyal listeners, to another episode of the Loyalty Minute. I'm your host, Rob Gallo, and today I'm eager and excited to chat with Jonathan Silver. He's the CEO of Affinity Solutions, a global insight and marketing solutions firm. Welcome to the show, Jonathan. Thanks for joining me.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me, Rob.
Great. So for those listeners out there who don't know who you are, perhaps you could share a bit about your background, your story, how you got to where you are today.
Sure. My background is I started Affinity Solutions with a very strong interest in how data drives behavior. And when you get the right combination of offers and engagement strategy that's aligned with consumer needs, you can get the same result every time when you keep repeating that. My background is I worked at McKinsey consulting firm after graduating from Wharton and the University of Pennsylvania School of Engineering. And once I had that experience working for a larger company, I decided that I wanted to go down the entrepreneurial path. Started a membership organization for new moms, which is ironic because I did that when I was single with no kids. So it was sort of an interesting path that I went down, but I was fascinated by sort of bundling offers and content and services around particular life stage and lifestyle segments, and I just happened to start with new moms. That led to a path where I started working with financial institutions, helping them develop deeper relationships with their customers based on their life stage and lifestyle. And that led to an innovation which the industry called merchant-funded rewards or card-linked offers, where banks wanted to use us, or we pioneered the idea of when that customer of a bank shops at a retailer like a Home Depot or at that time a Toys R Us, they would get more rewards, more value, more cash. So that became, no pun intended, our calling card, and we built this new innovation for financial institutions that issue credit and debit cards, and that got us access to so much data from the banks because we had to run the program, and we had to determine when someone shopped at a participating retailer. So that gave us access to all their data, led us down the path that we're on now.
Wow. Well, we're definitely going to get deep into the data because that fascinates me, and I think it's it's definitely the way of the future. I know it's obviously been a long history for Affinity Solutions, but I think there's a lot of people that could learn, our listeners could learn from leveraging that data in the future. But generally speaking, the first question that I ask most of our guests is, what does it mean to you? What loyalty, or what does the term loyalty mean to you in terms of customer loyalty from a consumer perspective? What makes Jonathan Silver loyal to a brand and why?
Yeah, to me, it's about recognition. It's about emotional connection, customer engagement. So, when I think about the businesses that I'm loyal to, I'm into yoga. There's a yoga studio in my town, and the woman who runs that yoga studio knows me by name. And when I go there, she knows the kinds of classes that I like to go to, and she recognizes that. And so to me, that's a big part of any relationship that I have with the business that I am loyal to, is feeling of recognition. And in that particular case, it shows up as someone who knows me, someone who can make recommendations that align with my interests.
And generally speaking, you might be akin to paying more for a service like that because of that value. Would that stand to be a reason?
Yeah, and in fact, I do. So obviously with the coronavirus having showed up, that business was largely unavailable, at least going into the studio, but they began to offer those classes online, and I stayed loyal. I could have easily canceled their classes, effectively paying them during a time when I couldn't go. So yeah, in a sense, I was paying more because I was paying them during a period when I couldn't use the service. Now we're going out doing outdoor yoga classes. So absolutely, I would pay more and give more latitude, more leeway to a company that's delivering that kind of emotional connection.
Yeah, I concur. I mean, I'm loyal to American Express for a bunch of different reasons, but in particular, I don't want to sound redundant because I probably mentioned this on some previous episodes, but they go above and beyond for me as a customer, a cardholder, in ways that just boggle my mind. So, case in point, I had a situation where I had my pool was opened by the pool company in New York when I lived in New York, and they charged $1,100. And when the guy was done, the pool was just as green as when he started. And I said, that's ridiculous. He put the diving board on and the stairs. I said, there's no way I'm paying you $1,100. I said, $300 maybe. So I told American Express, I said, I'm willing to pay the guy $300, but not $1,100. Mm-hmm. They wanted to keep him as a customer, so they paid the $1,100 or the $800. I paid the $300, and they actually sent me flowers. Well, my wife, but anyway, it was just an interesting story, and things like that to me resonate exactly like you said with the yoga studio. Them knowing you and how they interact with you makes the biggest difference. And I think a lot of businesses fail to recognize that. And that's part of the problem. Even Apple, quick story. 2 days ago, I just bought a new iPad, had an issue with it with the Apple Pay or whatever the case may be. This is a $2 trillion company that is spending an hour and a half on the phone with me, way above and beyond the normal Call of Duty. But that just goes to show that's the reason I believe that people are loyal to that brand.
No question. And I've seen, as we look at larger companies, AT&T has done some really interesting things. And, because of all that's happened over the last few months, you can kind of see or, test the resilience of companies' ability to connect with their customers based on how they dealt with the last several months. And I was identifying AT&T because they really changed their whole customer engagement strategy. The curbside, you can go up to an AT&T store and you can, deal with a phone need, and the people who, particularly frontline workers that need, connectivity in their phone, they really went above and beyond AT&T to serve those customers, but also their regular everyday customers by providing mechanisms to service them in ways that had to be changed and adapted to the moment and the challenges from coronavirus.
Yeah.
So I think, lots of examples like that. I can give one more. We see companies like, Domino's, others in the QSR category, where they've kind of understood the customer anxiety that's going on during the coronavirus, and they made their entire delivery system organized around contactless. Of course, they were always doing home delivery, pizza, Papa John's, same, but they wanted to make sure they could communicate to their customers that no human hands touch the pizza. They improved Domino's, their ability. You could order, the food to deliver to the front door, the side door, the back door. So they really customized and tailored the home delivery process in a way that I think met the moment.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting times that we're in now, and I think as tough as it is to react to the new normal or to become part of it, I think you have no choice really, because it's just the way things seem to be. Pretty soon it's going to be coming into flu season again, and companies that I guess get the public's perception of what's happening right now, right or wrong, just need to adapt. So let's get into the data, because I'm a data fanatic, Jonathan. And when you talk about data, sometimes it scares people that it's too much data. So what type of data are you leveraging, and how do you not make it creepy?
Yeah. Well, we live in a world, obviously, where, consumers want relevancy, but they also want to protect their privacy, as you alluded to. And for us, our data set starts with, because we work with financial institutions that issue credit and debit cards, starts with all the transactions on people's cards, where they swiped, where they transacted, what merchants they transacted. And by the way, just as an aside, you can really tell customer loyalty when you look at the transaction behavior on your credit or debit card, because you can see how often they return, how frequently they transacted with a particular retailer or marketer. But it starts with that credit card data, and what we found early on is that the patterns of behavior on your card are incredibly predictive. I joke that if you gave me your credit card statements or debit card statements for the last year, I could tell you what you're going to do next month. The concept of free will went out the window when we started predicting with an uncanny accuracy whether someone was going to do a kitchen remodel or a bathroom renovation simply by looking at the transactions over the prior year. The creepiness factor, because of the nature of the programs we provide, the cardholder has opted in. They've given permission to allow their data to be used to deliver relevant offers. So at least at the first level of what the consumer relationship is, it's the permission to the bank to allow offers, obviously discounts or more points or more miles depending on the program, that are relevant to them because they're from retailers that they have a strong interest in. Now we're going beyond that, and we're starting to connect to that purchase data other data types. We have tons of demographic, behavioral, and lifestyle data that we connect to that purchase behavior. We're starting to look at, and again, it's all about consumer permission, to look at other faster moving data sets like location data, browsing data, all with value back to the consumer in exchange for their permission. We have a vision at Affinity Solutions about, we call it a personal data cloud, where consumers will have control. This is not a huge stretch. Things are heading this direction already. But that in exchange for valuable experiences, you will permission your data. You'll provision your data. And we see the world heading, and Affinity will play a key role here, in almost like this next generation app store. Imagine, your friend telling you, hey, Rob, check out this app, because when you download it, when you walk into Walgreens, they're going to recognize you by name. They're going to make recommendations to you through virtual signage, personalized recommendations to you if you sign up for this app. So you're like, wow, that's pretty cool. You'll go sign up for the app. And when you do, you'll permission your data. You'll have your personal data cloud. You'll be like, I trust this company. I trust Walgreens to use my data for this limited application, which is delivering this experience. I don't know if you go to CES. They used to be called the Consumer Electronics Show. Mm-hmm. I was there in January, and before the world changed, the CEO of Delta Airlines, Ed Bastian, was the first keynote with thousands of people in the audience, and he was talking about the future of travel. And in talking about it, he started bringing different partners of Delta on stage that were helping to create that future world now. One of them was a company that was helping them launch a new technology called parallel reality. What is parallel reality? He said this is not some future Minority Report scenario. They were about to launch this in Detroit Airport and I think LAX. Parallel reality is Jonathan Silver and Rob Gallo are standing in front of some signage at the airport. You look at that sign and you see only information pertaining to your flights, to Rob Gallo's flights, your gate, what time you have to be at the gate, a restaurant nearby that may have food that matches your preferences, and nothing else. I'm standing right next to you looking at the same sign, and I only see things on that sign that pertain to me and nothing about Rob Gallo. Both of us not wearing special glasses and both having this incredibly virtual and personalized experience. Don't ask me how the technology works, but even though travel was put on pause, that same technology, which is really an extension of virtual reality and mixed reality and augmented reality, that same technology is going to personalize physical spaces. And that idea of a next generation app store where people are going to tell you, check this out, you've got to sign up for this app. You'll permission your data, you'll provision it to sign up for that application and get access to that experience. In physical stores, virtual environments, you may not even have to walk into stores. This notion of Internet of Things will create other ways of engaging with brands in ways that we haven't even tapped the surface on.
It's incredible. It's incredible. I mean, I'm thinking Minority Report when you start talking like that into the same sign. I mean, again, not to get into the technical weeds, there has to be something differentiating what you're seeing and I'm seeing if we're not wearing special glasses or looking at our phones for the AR portion of it,
Well, if I told you, I may have to slaughter you, and I hate to do that.
I know.
All right. No, I'm kidding.
Proprietary need-to-know basis, and I don't need to know at the moment.
Well, the only thing I can say is that this was something that was about to launch in Detroit and LA airports, so it's not some futuristic thing, and it's very real. And I think our role at Affinity Solutions, where we see our role evolving, is that we're taking all this data that Affinity Solutions has. The star of the show, as I mentioned earlier, is this purchase data. on credit and debit cards that are permissioned by consumers, but all this other data that links to it, because we have a matchable, linkable data set with an ID that's matched to other data sets. Where we see our role is to facilitate this renaissance of new applications that I know is coming. This world of hyper-personalization, where app developers will build applications on top of our data, not only our data, others as well, and the technology that we and others are deploying around artificial intelligence, machine learning, consent management, but also integrating with these other technologies like parallel reality that allow that personalization to manifest itself in really cool ways. So that's how we see our role, as this kind of enabler where our data, our platform can enable this renaissance of applications. And we see it going beyond commerce. I know the world that we inhabit today is all about commerce and driving deeper relationships with consumers for our corporate partners, our clients, all under the auspices of using data to improve people's lives, which is a vision of our company. Our core vision is the consumer using data to improve their lives. Today it's about commerce, but we see it going into other domains. We see it going into health and education and social and entertainment. We think that the educational system in 5 to 10 years will make what we're doing today look prehistoric. The personalized education of 5 to 10 years from now will take into account your interests, your aptitudes, children's and young adults, where they're best suited, and nurture and build those skills in a way that makes them happy and makes them a better contributor. Same thing with health. We see the world of personalized health with permission, accessing your medical records to make recommendations on nutrition and exercise and sleep and stress that help you avoid disease states that you may have a high propensity for. So we see it today about commerce. That's the world we live in, but we see that idea of a personal data cloud, the ability to provision your data to get access to these really cool experiences. We see that as extending across domains. I'll just add one sentence here, which is that, we see the world around this idea of a personal operating system that sits on top of all your personal data that will enable all these wonderful experiences that will personalize your life in many, many ways.
Well, if it's used for good and not evil, that science fiction books depict, then I think it's great. I mean, because I'm a tech geek. I've been in the digital space for forever. I was online banking and online trading stocks in 1992 when E-Trade sent me these 5 big floppy disks that I stuck in my machine and started trading stocks back then. So it's incredible the way technology is definitely taking over our lives, and it's only going to continue to do so. I don't think you can put it back in the horse. So let me switch gears a little bit and I want you to think about and see if you can help our listeners who might be small to medium-sized businesses, maybe some enterprise solutions companies that are thinking about, I need to do more for loyalty. From a commerce perspective, what can I do? So can you think of a success story or failure that was either helping enhance loyalty or that completely dismantled the loyalty of a company? And if you could, maybe put it in sort of an anecdotal story that people could resonate with.
Yeah. So, obviously the travel industry, we've all had, very positive and very negative experiences there. And I think, if we're calling out bad experiences, my experience my negative experience has been on United, and to a certain extent on American, where I just felt the opposite of that personal recognition. I felt that my needs weren't addressed, and I feel the opposite very positively about Delta Airlines, not just because I heard their CEO at the Consumer Electronics Show talk about their cool new technologies. I always feel recognized. Of course, it helps when you travel a lot on a particular airline and you achieve status, then you obviously are going to be treated differently. But I just felt very different when I fly on United and when I fly on Delta, and it all comes down to that sense of personal service. Those businesses, I think, that deliver exceptional service and create that loyalty versus those that don't. One of the core characteristics is the way they treat their employees, and treating their employees as if they were customers. Home Depot, as an example, we did some work for them, and I was invited to their private events. And at first I felt a little awkward as one of their vendor partners, standing with a red apron on doing the Home Depot cheer. But what I started to realize is that that cheer, which was the bulk of the people there were their frontline workers, their associates in their stores, were part of a family. And they were, saying these corny cheers, but the purpose of that was to engage their frontline associates in a way that made them feel great. And then in turn, that relationship with their associates would then translate into better customer service. So I think Home Depot is another example of positive. We've all had some negative experiences, or at least I have, with Home Depot, where you walk into this cavernous store and you can't find one of those orange apron guys. But generally, I feel the difference when I walk into Home Depot and an associate comes over. So those are some examples, I guess, in both travel and home improvement, where I see the difference in personal connection and in employees and associates that you could tell are really, really care.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the people, especially the associates at Home Depot, my brother used to work at Home Depot years ago, and I don't want to say they're indoctrinated, but they're trying to think about this person that's walking in. What's their real objective? They don't want a hammer and a nail. They want to hang a picture on the wall, right? So it's the result that they help you get. And I've had guys that would say, well, don't you think you'd be better off cutting this wood this way? You know what I mean? To create this planter box or whatever it was, because it'll give you more room and blah, blah, blah. So he was really helpful in that respect. And that I completely appreciated, because, again, I'm going in there looking for more of an answer than really just the commodity of the hammer or the wood. So
you bring up a great point, because the one thing, what you're basically saying is that people want solutions. And one of the things that I feel passionate about, and it kind of goes back to the early days of Affinity Solutions, is that people tend to respond to marketers in the context of what they most care about. And the word affinity in our company name is, really got picked because it speaks to the consumer affinity, their life stage, their lifestyle. I told you about the work we did with young families, and it was because we saw that new parents, new mothers specifically, had a need for connection. Of course, they need to know what products to buy and whether this diaper brand is better for them than that diaper brand. But what the underlying need that we saw was a need for connection. They wanted advice from other parents because it eased their sense of isolation. And so we organized this value proposition for new parents around their needs, and then from there we started looking at seniors and college students. And so I think companies that organize their solutions around what the consumers care about most. One other example is we had a bank years ago, Chase, reach out to us because they had a credit card portfolio that they were issued under the name REI. It was a retailer who sold outdoor products, but they lost the affiliation with that brand. So now they were about to issue all these people that sign up for this REI credit card, an outdoor products brand, plain old Chase plastic. And they called us up and they said, Affinity Solutions, can you create a program that will appeal to outdoor enthusiasts? We went out, we found 140 different retailers that could offer deals on hiking, canoeing, biking, hiking, etc., and created services around that. So when people were planning a trip, we could help them plan their hiking or their sleepover trip or their camping trip. But we also helped them figure out, if they didn't have the stove and the sleeping bag, but they had the tent and the backpack, they could find the things that they needed, and we could. So organizing stuff, whether it's in your case like Home Depot around a particular need, how to build something, or whether it's around a life stage or lifestyle, I think is one of the core characteristics of companies that get it and build deeper loyalty.
Yeah, no doubt. I think people have to realize that the person who is that customer is just like you. And that's why the first question that I ask most of the guests on the show is, what does it mean to you? And then put yourself in the situation or the position of the person that you're, let's say, explaining the business to get them to have buy-in to, let's say, Affinity Solutions for the programs that you offer. So now, We could talk about this forever, but I know we probably reached the attention span of most people at the 25-minute mark. So let me just ask you this. In an ideal world, what would your customer loyalty and engagement strategy look like in the future? I know we talked about some pretty futuristic stuff, but where is it going?
Yeah, well, not surprisingly, for us, it's about data. And, we publish on our website, affinitysolutions.com. We launched a program called Data for Good. Initially, it was really about providing, aggregate level data on what's happening in the economy because people were just blind. You had all these retailers we were working with that just didn't know what was going to happen week to week because the primary data they were using to run their business, their CRM or customer data, there was a huge hole punched through it. People weren't showing up in their stores or on their websites. So they needed more of an outside-in view, and we were able, obviously, to provide that with all of our data sets. And so Data for Good initially was around helping retailers with that outside-in visibility, as well as scientists, academics, and researchers who were looking for help with government, supporting governments around their policymaking. But in the future, it's really about customer-level relevancy and, that vision of hyper-personalization of the future. What it looks like in the near term is, emotional resonance with the consumer, being able to tailor the products and services that company has in a way that's highly customer-centric. And here's what's exciting, Rob. All of the customer, that whole vision of the consumer at the center was historically, even if they were screaming into the wind, was the marketing department of that retailer or that marketer. What we're seeing now is that the whole enterprise is lining up. We're seeing that companies that are really building, great loyalty programs, they're also lining the rest of the organization around customer experience. So it's not just about the loyalty program. It's about what is the experience? So Kroger, we were working with looking at how their customers were behaving outside of Kroger. Turns out it's not just the other supermarkets they're competing with, but a lot of their customers' share of stomach, if you will, was being shifted to QSRs. And so rethinking the customer experience at Kroger means looking at their food service department and maybe putting a restaurant in their stores. So it's rethinking customer service or customer experience, I should say, where they place their stores, real estate, supply chain, merchandising, the whole enterprise lining up around customer loyalty. That's where tomorrow's successful marketers are going to be. That's how they're going to behave in the market. Yeah,
I see trends going in that direction too. It's funny you say that. I'm down here in West Palm Beach, and Publix is all the rage now. I mean, that's all we really have is everywhere's a Publix. And I get sushi from Publix. They have a sushi chef in Publix every day making fresh sushi, and it's delicious. But you're right. So they must have said, it's next to the fish area where they sell smoked salmon. And right there, you can buy fresh sushi, and it's phenomenal. So anyway, listen, I know we could talk about this all day, but
happy to do it.
Last question. What sort of actionable advice can you share with our listeners that they can implement today to attract and retain more customers?
Yeah. So look, I mean, to me, it's what we're seeing with smaller businesses is that a lot of the tools that had been available only to the largest businesses are now being available to the smaller ones. And so we are a big believer in the democratization of data, insight, and loyalty tools for businesses. Small businesses today can access these tools very easily where they couldn't before. So I think the first step is get access to those tools that give you visibility on how your customers are behaving outside of your own experience with them. What are they doing? Where are they shopping? How are they engaging? That will provide unique insights to help you build new customer experiences that you may not be exploring today. The second is to then take those insights, we call it insights to action, and create actionable strategies. Who are some of the top 4 or 5 customer segments that represent who your best customers are? What are those archetypes? What are those the profiles of the customers that represent your most valuable customers, so you can find more of them? And then organize your products and services around those high-value customer segments. I think the idea of loyalty around points or miles or whatever the currency is, that to me is a sideshow. It's really about building the relationships so there's continuity and there's recognition, but organized around those best customer profiles or archetypes. I think that's how I would approach my business today.
Good stuff. Okay, Jonathan, if listeners want to get a hold of you for more information, what's the best way they could do that?
Best way would really be to go to our website, www.affinitysolutions.com. There's a contact us section there. Be happy if you reach out to me. I'm happy to connect with you personally. We're excited about how data can improve people's lives and can help companies build deeper relationships with consumers. And if we can assist in any way, we're happy to do it.
Great. Jonathan, I want to thank you for your time, sharing the customer loyalty insights and some of those futuristic experiences. I can't wait to see this, almost like a parallel universe. It's going to be pretty wild. I also want to thank our listeners for being loyal and investing some of their valuable time with us. If you feel you received value from the show, we would definitely appreciate a 5-star review on your favorite podcast streaming service. If you know someone else who you think might value listening to the show and learn from it, please do share. That's how we grow. To reference this and other Loyalty Minute episodes, please visit theloyaltyminute.com. Jonathan, thanks again. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for your next edition of the Loyalty Minute.